Hello everyone, hope you're doing well. Today it is time to have a look at the Pages of History event and also do a bit of a post-mortem when it comes to Summer Quest events since it is just finished. And if you want to just see the Summer Quest stuff, then I will leave a chapter so you can just click on it and go there if you're interested in those opinions. But first we'll start off with the Pages of History for September. This time, what is going on is they're doing another profile picture, and this is actually for Marsario Garcia, which is pretty awesome. He was the first Mexican immigrant to receive the Medal of Honor, USA's highest military award, and Garcia participated in the invasion of Normandy and received his first honors in the summer of 1944. In the Battle of Hürtgen Forest, while fighting the German forces under Grossau, Garcia destroyed 2 enemy machine gun nests and took 4 prisoners all by himself, and also kept fighting until completing his task despite being injured. So overall, just a very, a figure to look up to when it comes to bravery and when it comes to general confidence. And looking at the different ones which are available for this month, they don't seem too bad. There was a few of them which last month were a bit tricky doing them alongside the Summer Quest event because they were rank 1s and rank 2s, but hopefully for this month it won't be as hard. So you still get the trophy for each reward, so the random camo or the day of premium or the backups or the boosters, just as usual. So always nice to do these events for those reasons. The first one, from the 1st September to the 4th, is Operation Grand Slam. So it's the operation in the Second Indo-Pakistani War of 1965. Pakistani forces had cut off Indian supply lines under Jammu and had an overwhelming advantage in numbers at the beginning of the attack. But on the second day of the operation, its command had suddenly changed, and the Indian army used that pause to strengthen its contingent in the region. So in the end of the battle, it ended in a stalemate. On the 5th, you got the Berlin Victory Parade of 1945, so you probably have a bunch of different vehicles since the USSR, USA, Great Britain, and France all held a parade on the 7th in Berlin after Japan surrendered on the 2nd of September. On the 8th of September starts Operation Aichi, is I'm guessing how you say it. In the summer of 1943, after the Allies had landed on Sicily, a coup d'etat happened in Italy. Benito Mussolini's government was removed from power and the new leadership surrendered to the Allies. Hitler couldn't tolerate his main ally resigning from the war, so he sent German forces to establish control over northern and central Italy, including Rome. The Wehrmacht had successfully completed its task, and from the September of 1943, a marionette Salo Republic, led by Mussolini, was established in the occupied territories. On the 12th of September, you got the Riga Offensive in 1944. This was after the success of the Silao offensive and the victory over the German forces in Estonia. The Red Army had to execute a final operation to split the North and Center Army groups of the Wehrmacht. As a result of the Riga offensive, the Soviet forces advanced to the Baltic Sea, while the Wehrmacht's North Army Group was cut off and surrounded in the Courland Pocket, where it remained until the end of the war. On the 16th, you have the Battle of Chawinda. This is in mid-1965. In September, the biggest tank battle since the Battle of Kursk took place. Having stopped Pakistan's attack, India started its counteroffensive, utilizing its overwhelming force in the Chawinda region. The Pakistani forces used air support to last long enough for reinforcements to arrive, and the battle once again ended in a stalemate with huge tank losses. So there seems to be a theme, at least when it comes to this month, with the India-Pakistani stuff. Obviously, on the 19th of September, you have the Battle of Hürtgen Forest, which was on the 19th of September, 1944. It lasted 3 months, thus becoming the longest battle in the history of the US Army. And the Wehrmacht fought on its home territory, using dense forests and fortifications, mining paths, and setting up traps. Despite the Americans having more manpower, their advance was slow with heavy losses, and the successful defense of the Hürtgen Forest became a prelude to the large Ardennes counteroffensive by the German forces. Also, on the 23rd of September, you have the Tuapse defensive operation. This was from 1942. It was part of the strategic battle of the Caucasus. The Red Army successfully stopped the German forces under Tuapse, not letting them capture the town and reach the Black Sea. By the end of November, the Wehrmacht's advance in the region had completely stopped, and the Soviet army went into a counteroffensive, beginning the liberation of Kuban from the Tuapse area. Then, on the last one of the general set of them, you have the Operation Halberd. This was September of 1941. The British Royal Navy delivered a supply convoy to Malta. The Italians tried to intercept it, but they were deterred by the strength of the escorting force: 3 battleships, 18 destroyers, 8 submarines, and an aircraft carrier. Using its overwhelming force, the British fleet easily repelled the attack from the air and delivered the cargo to its destination. By the way, if you are worried about not having some of the vehicles for this event, what you can do is when the September one is available, which should be either now or in the next few days, you can actually check them in-game, and it tells you which vehicles are used for each of the ones. So you can kind of grind them out before they're available, so it makes it a little bit easier for yourself. So when it comes to the Summer Quest event, I have to honestly say this is the first event in War Thunder's history where it has actually made me feel burnt out because of the event. When it comes to the Build-A-Bear stuff, the Build-A-Bear stuff is usually over a smaller time period than 20 days, usually around about 14 or 15. So even though it's a lot of hard graft, you can, get through it at a pretty decent rate. This one was 20 days of hard graft, just over and over and over again. I was only able on one of the days to be able to do all 3 of the stars on one day, so therefore having kind of a rest day, where one of the things about the summer challenges and the winter challenges that used to happen was I'd get most of it, if not all of it, done on day 1, and then on day 2 I could kind of do what I feel like when it came to the game or when it came to other stuff. This Summer Quest event, it was not that. I just couldn't. I didn't have time to finish everything. I don't know if it's I'm just getting old. I don't know what's going on, but I just wasn't able to do it as efficiently as I'd previously done it before. Now, I did get all 10 stars in each of the different modes, so I did fully complete the event in that setup. I also opened 400 of the crates that they had. I got absolutely nothing. The only thing that I got was 1 flame decal that I already had, which is always fun. Everything else was either SL, so useless, orders, which are useless, or boosters, which are also useless for me. Didn't get anything else after spending 30 million SL. Did get the Happy Camper decal, though, because I didn't have any duplicates. I know people did get duplicates, though, on the decals, so it looks like they haven't removed that system. Very sad. Wish they did remove that system, so you were guaranteed to get all 5 separate decals, sorry. Luckily, I just got, lucky with that thing. But the main issue with this event was really the fact that there wasn't really a break. There wasn't really a way of just kind of relaxing and turning off the brain. I felt like all the time during it, there was always stuff that had to be pushed forward to. And this means that other parts of the game kind of fell apart for me. So one of the things that I like doing alongside, events and stuff is decals. I like doing dailies. I like doing specials. And I like doing a bunch of different objectives in the game. So it keeps it entertaining. It keeps it fresh. It means that I can move around, doing different things in it. And one of the things that I was doing was I was researching all the ground vehicles in the game. And now that I've researched all the ground vehicles in the game, there's not, too much to do in that setup. So now I've just been starting doing air stuff. But the problem is, since there was still the ground decal, the ground objective for this Summer Quest, I felt like I was being kind of forced to play stuff that, I'd already kind of completed in my own head. So that was more of a personal failing on that front of not like managing what to play and what to go for. And also the fact that they put in this new system instead of the old system with the challenges, they decided to do the score system and then multipliers depending on what you were playing around the place. Like that's a completely fine system, but it also became incredibly monotonous because even though you can technically play what you want and it just kind of grinds as you go, it also means that if you don't play either the meta stuff or the high ranking stuff, it's going to take you years to do this event. And I think either the general amount of mission score was too high, or the bonuses for the different tiers didn't give you enough. I feel like this event would have been a lot more fun if it was at like 30 or maybe even 35k per mode, just because overall on the day that I did do everything in one sitting, it took 11 hours to do everything. So it was around about 4 hours per marker distinction. That is pretty long compared to before. The Naval Star I used to be able to crack out in something like an hour and a half. The Air Star I was able to do alongside the Ground Star, and usually I would take it kind of slow and relax, and I'd be able to do them in around about 6 hours. So pretty much at that point, you're looking at like 7 hours to 8 hours. So most of all, you're looking at a 40% to 30 to 40% increase in time needed for me personally to do this type of event. Now, if I'd done it super properly, then yeah, maybe it would have worked a lot easier. Maybe it would have worked properly. But generally, I feel like since it's a new system, the efficiently ways of doing these things, I'm not going to follow as much. You know, I'm not going to play aircraft simulator battles and abuse the system like a lot of people do in SM, which is why I refuse to play it. I'm not going to play Naval Realistic because I would rather saw my own leg off. It's boring as all hell. Naval Arcade is the superior game mode. I would rather play Ground Realistic instead of Ground Sim because I enjoy it a bit more. So I could have made it a little bit easier on myself to get these things done, but I would have had a more negative time. And one of the problems with War Thunder in general is the fact that if you take all this stuff together and you look at the multipliers on the different areas, especially when it comes to ground, but this also applies to air. Usually, as you go up the tiers, you make less score as you go forward. So at the higher tiers in ground, you have a lot of people who spawn once and then leave the game, or they spawn once, get in a helicopter, and then die and then leave the game after getting a bunch of kills. Some people are able to do better, some people are able to do worse, but usually per game, for me, if I look at my stats, I get less kills per game per vehicle. But my deaths basically stay around about the same. And this is just because how the interactions work. People spawn more in the lower tiers of the game, people feel like they have more of a chance of being able to move around, and it's generally better for them, which, you know, is good. So even though you have these like higher rates at the higher BRs, it doesn't really show or doesn't really go into more points for the mission score stuff because of the fact that you have the way that this system works. In Air Realistic, for example, usually at mid tiers or slightly high tiers, missions are slightly longer, so you have more time to hit AI, you have more time to, you know, have these longer engagements, you have more time to be able to, you know, kind of accrue points, where at the higher tiers of the game, it's bang, 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 bang. So if you are able to get 1 or 2 kills in those higher tier games pretty quickly, and then go to the next one, then you'll be able to do the event really quickly. But at mid tier, it may take a bit longer to like accrue points over time. So the actual balance of the system when it comes to the multipliers seems a little bit skew-with for me, at least when I look at the general stuff. I'm hoping that if they decide to keep this style of event, I really hope that they decide to lower the mission score or change the multipliers a little bit, because it was a grueling event, and I feel like events in War Thunder, yes, they're supposed to be a little bit, I suppose, grueling, but not all grueling. I felt like the awards that I got out of this were not were not good enough for the amount of grind that I put in. So to give you an example, I think the reason why the mission score and stuff like that is harder than the other one is because of this trend to get higher and higher tier vehicles as event rewards. So the Haruna is legitimately a top tier vehicle for naval, and it's going to be for a long time. The Leopard 2AV, once again, pretty much a top tier vehicle, just slightly lower than the top echelon for Germany. The F4D, same thing for air, and then you got the Zerigny, which is a little bonus. So if instead we got like rank 4 premiums, for example, for this, I feel like this event would be a little bit easier. It would be a little bit better, and there wouldn't be this emphasis on, oh well, if you want to grind out this Leopard 2AV, then you're gonna have to put in the work. You're gonna have to get all the mission score. Like, in order to get the 2AV, so you need 8. You need 8 times 40,000 mission score. So that's 320,000 mission score. And a lot of people made the thought that, oh, well, do you think they're just going to give these high-tier vehicles away, and it's going to be easy to grind? I mean, no, of course not. But also, at the same time, that takes 16 days to do, right? So 16 days overall to be able to get that 320,000 mission score. In 2.5 days, if I'm just using standard vehicles, not premiums, I can grind out a top tier vehicle of 400,000 RP. In aircraft, it takes me 2 days to grind out a 400k research vehicle. There's a reason why, at least for me, I have all of the ground stuff in the game researched. I have pretty much all of the aviation stuff. There's only like 5 vehicles that I need. And then for naval, it's, a little bit skew with. And don't even talk to me about helicopters. So over a period of 16 days, for me, I can grind out 5, 6, 7 top tier vehicles, 400k to 380k RP vehicles. So the idea that this 2AV, which if you have a look at the tech tree would probably be like 240, 270, 320, something like that, in that range, telling me that that is equivalent, right? The amount of grind for this is equivalent for what you can do in another part is just wrong. It's not equivalent at all. The 2AV is way more than this when you have a look at it. During this period, I was able to research about 4 top tier vehicles, right, to finish off all of the tech trees in the game. So the idea that a Leopard 2AV is equivalent to that is ridiculous to me. Same with the F4D1. I was able to research with the Mirage 5F the whole of the Mirage F1CT. I was also able to finish off the Mirage F1C, which I had as well, and also some other vehicles like the F100A for China, and that was like while also doing all of the other events going on. So the idea that these things are comparable in the amount of times that it takes is just not true. Maybe for other people it takes them like, I don't know, a week or 2 to be able to grind out these high tier vehicles. For me, it doesn't. So I know like the timings that I can do, right? So it doesn't work in that setup. The Zerigny is a cool vehicle. I hope we get more vehicles like it. I would rather have mid-tier rewards, which were premiums. I think that's much more useful for people instead of these event vehicles, which they have to play stock and get battered on over and over and over again until they get the modifications that are useful. Like the F4D1, I've seen a ton of people like say the F4D1 is rubbish. In a stock configuration, it's going to be rubbish. But you know what else? Every other jet at that BR is terrible in its stock configuration. The F4D1, when it's fully spaded, it does have advantages, especially at your BR and down. The issue with it is its matchmaking. The issue with it is the 10-0, 10-3 area, not necessarily the vehicle itself. And this is one of the problems when discussing vehicles. So the Haruna is going to be completely fine once spaded, same with the 2AV. So all of these vehicles are completely functional at a standard, but the amount of grind that was required to get them, I don't feel matches up to the vehicles themselves. What I would prefer is to lessen the grind and also lessen the types of vehicles. So instead having, a rank 3 plane, which is a premium, which is going to be much more useful, or sorry, a rank 4 plane, which is premium, which would be much more useful than a rank 6 event vehicle, which is not going to be useful for grinding. Same with ground. I'd rather have a rank 4 tank in that regard. The decals were nice. The sailing catamaran was nice. The Girl Scout player icon was nice. The Hornet's Nest was a pretty nice touch. I think it would have been better if they made a bee's nest, because obviously hornets are, annoying as hell to deal with. But it was kind of cool how, you could actually see the flying insects in the gunner optics and the binos and stuff if you put it on. I thought that was a really nice touch. I hope we see more animated decorations going forward. Still hoping that my boy the elephant gets his trunk moving, which would be really nice to see, but we'll have to see going forward. The main thing that this event has taught me is even if you make it technically easier to do the stars, such as this event is technically easier to do, right? Like, it's one of those where you don't have to focus on challenges, you just have to play the game. You will still get people who will massively abuse these games. The Moffat stuff that we talked about, which has been going on for way longer than this event, by the way. So the Moffat bots, the USS Moffat stuff, you have the people in AirSim, which are just ganging up to be able to get everything done super quickly. There was even a little patch that Gaijin did where they reduced the amount of score you got from, rocketing bases, because people were just doing that and stuff like the F4 Phantoms, and they'll get a ton of score, and then there you go. There's also people who cheat in AirSim where they just spawn 2 sets of AIs, leave them on the airfield, and then they bomb them. Dog for Life actually has a video for that if you want to check it out, just to see how these guys cheat the system when it comes to Air Simulator, which is why I'll always be against these events being in Air Simulator, because the minority of players who benefit from it is tiny and insignificant compared to the majority of people who abuse the system, which is one of the issues and ongoing stuff with a game mode which has a small player base, because it is rife for abuse, just like the Heli PV mode was as well when it was, PvP mode was as well when it was out. So this summer quest for me, when it comes to challenge events, it's been the weakest out of the ones that I've done. There's only one which I would say was worse than this, and that was Summertime Madness back in the day, where a lot of you won't know about this, but way back in the day, like we're talking I think 2015 maybe, War Thunder, before they did these events in the summer and winter, they did similar ones, but the issue was they were way harder. They were ridiculous. One of the original vehicles that was available was, of course, the KV-1B in them, but you had to do some ridiculous challenges to be able to get stuff. So just to give you an idea, one of them was destroy 30 ships flying bombers, right? But the problem is this was before the naval game mode existed, so you had to do it in air. Achieve 30 victories whilst flying aircraft of either Great Britain or Germany. You had 2 days to do that in, by the way. Then there was destroy 30 enemy attackers or heavy fighters, flying aircraft from the PE, the IL-2, IL-10 or Ki-45 series. So in a day, you had to find 30 enemies, so 30 enemy players that were flying these things, right? And that was, and you had to kill 30 of them. Imagine having to do that. How about this? Destroy 40 enemy aircraft flying in the Focke-Wulf 190 series or MiG series. So you've got a day to find 40 enemies that are flying those. What if you just don't find them? What if nobody decides to play them because they're all doing the event and trying to find them? It's ridiculous. Those events were very, very hard. So no matter what War Thunder puts out, they will never bring anything out which is anywhere close to that level. But if we compare this to the more recent challenge events and recent winter events, this stuff has been way harder this time. And I'm hoping if they decide to keep this system for the winter event, that they do decrease the amount of stuff that you have to do. Another thing to also mention is all of the events now in War Thunder are exactly the same. So you've got the History Pages event, get 20k score with certain vehicles. Summer Quest event, get 40k score in certain game modes, with different multipliers. The Build-A-Bear event, literally play the game and get certain amounts of activity and you unlock boxes. All three of these different ones, the only thing that changes is the specific vehicles that you use. There is no challenges anymore. There's nothing to really work towards. It's just play the game. And that is better for the common denominator, or the lowest common denominator. But sometimes it would be nice to have a few challenges thrown in to maybe make it a little bit easier or make it a little bit, more possible. They've realized with the Battle Pass this was a good idea, throwing in little Battle Pass challenges here and there. Some of them are pretty hard, some of them are pretty easy. That stuff, it was really, really good. But for some reason, when it comes to the Summer Quest, they've just decided just to do the score stuff. I would like to see maybe some missions thrown in so it's easier to do certain pieces, and then you can kind of go forward from there. So if you want to actually use a bit of skill instead of just turning up and randomly shooting things, maybe you can have something to push towards. Maybe, how you have the authentic decal stuff where it kind of puts you into a mode to be able to maybe play some of these things. That's what would be nice. It's just some incentive instead of just droning on. Because I feel like with this event, I just felt like a robot going through the motions instead of focusing on things that I needed to focus on. So that would be nice at the end of the day. Anyway, my throat's giving up, so as always, I hope you have a wonderful day, and I'll see you next time. I'd just like to thank Nicholas Richardson, Elove Goat, Pyman675, Winter Scientist, Merciless Reaper, Jerry Prevolt, Megadino King, Orange Tail, Teddy, John Ryman, Universe, Ambrosius McClellan, Daniel Stanton, Moxie, B. Young, Uncle Bean, Sem Arslan, Derek R., Bareen, Lafouche, and Samuel Slick for supporting the channel.